we're sitting in meditation, most of us with our eyes closed, and Guru usually started the meditations by chanting Om 3 times, or sometimes even more, and then quiet. And it's just astounding when you see the earlier pictures of the height and depth of Guru's meditation. But keeping in mind, we're, at least I was for sure, off the farm, an American, and don't know anything about Indian ways and spiritual masters. And to see Guru in an ultimately high consciousness that we recognize now, it was fascinating, but I think we undervalued the height of Guru at that time. Guru's just from the ashram, just to the United States, fulfilling his whole mission. The dreams of the future in front of Guru. Guru takes a flower and walks in front of each person. So Guru's there for this person, and then Guru comes in front of me and offers me the flower. So I hold the flower, and Guru holds the flower. We're both holding the flower at the same time. Guru's right in front. And in the first place, we, you're keeping your eyes closed. You don't know what you do. You're going to keep your eyes closed. You're going to look at him or not look at Guru. So I keep my eyes closed the first time, and the second time, just imagine, Guru comes, gives you a flower, you hold the flower, you look directly into Guru, and Guru's in the deepest of meditations. I mean, he's just focusing right straight on you. And you're looking right straight back at Guru, and Guru's still holding the flower, and then Guru steps back and you're holding the flower, and Guru's still there. And it could take a minute sometimes. For Guru to go through everybody, it might take half an hour. And then Guru would go back and have another meditation. But this was so poignant type of meditation where we're just directly in front of Guru. It was quite astounding. In Madhuri's diary, in her first diary, she has a very nice several pages, also her view of similar, because she was there at that time. Guru was in that apartment from December 1966 until July of 1968. So I had come earlier, and around about that time, there were a number of disciples who were very prominent in the mission then, and have the results of what they did we still have today. And one of those was Bholanath. And Bholanath was, you probably know Bholanath, or you've heard of him. He was the first disciple who met Guru. And that was because I think his cousin or somebody had heard that his friend had a master, and he was reading about these things, and he asked. So he met Guru, and he drove Guru around to many different places. And Bholanath was instrumental in moving Guru from he was in 2 places in Brooklyn, and he had rather urgently needed to move from Brooklyn to Manhattan, and Bholanath was the helper who helped him move to Manhattan. Bholanath's father was a lawyer and was instrumental in doing the legal things with Guru's new house after Manhattan in Jamaica, Queens. And one of the things that went on in Guru's house was a cottage industry. On Guru's front porch, there was a big table, and every Saturday, I think, Guru asked people to come and make little things. If you were an artist, or if you sewed, or if you did sculpture or something like that, little things. Guru called it cottage industry, like in India. So the idea was that would grow into some kind of a little business. And Bholanath was a sculptor, or he liked art. So he was making little sculpting pieces, and somebody said at one point that looks like somebody's head. So little by little, Guru was walking around looking what people were doing, and was encouraging Bholanath to make a bust of Guru. So another person who was there at the time was Priti Lakini. And Priti Lakini was a photographer. And it happens that in this cottage industry time, Bholanath wanted a picture. So Prita Lakini took the original pictures, multiple sides of Guru, from which Bholanath created the bust of Guru. And Bholanath also had the opportunity to use calipers. You know, you measure the head, different size. So the original bust that Bholanath made is very in keeping with Guru at that time and the size and shape and everything. I think it's one of the amazing piece of work. Dulal was also there in Manhattan. He had also met Guru earlier, I don't know quite how, in Brooklyn, but he was a very good musician in one of the top orchestras in Manhattan. He played the viola, and later he composed some songs, and he was the president of the New York Center in Manhattan and subsequently in Queens. And incidentally, his sister, as I said before, lived in New Rochelle, and she was a pretty well-known artist in her own right, and she actually did some portraits of Guru and some other, spiritual type paintings. 2.5 years later, Guru was asking that I would open a divine enterprise, that I would have some kind of enterprise. So you may have heard before that the first thing Guru asked me for was to open a car wash. And I don't know why Guru wanted a car wash, but he thought I would be good at a car wash. But a car wash is pretty difficult in Jamaica, Queens, because the mafia owns all the car wash. And they're way too expensive. So then Guru suggested a stationery store. Where the stationery store was on the corner before its present location, it used to be a storefront where they did political things for 1 year, and then it would be closed and stuff like that. So that was the first stationery store in 1970. And next door there was a laundromat kind of place. So 2 years later was Guru Health Foods. So I'm still at least on paper, I'm responsible for Guru Stationery and Guru Health Foods for a long time. Every other week, I think it was on a Saturday, Guru would go into Manhattan, and he would go to either Chidananda's house or to Nilima's house. Every other week it would be a different one, and there'd be about 20 or 30 disciples would drive into Manhattan, and the host, Chidananda, and some others would cook a meal, and then would be a very strong meditation, and then Guru would talk with people and we'd have a meal. But that was just, Guru took the time and effort to go to Chidananda's house, to Nilima's house, to be in Manhattan, and to be involved with each disciple in a very personal way. Another really, really very, very interesting moment was Guru wanted to have a school bus so that he could go places with a lot of people, so we could all be together and go somewhere. So one of the first school buses was just a standard yellow school bus, and the school bus had a name called Alo Bani. So Alo Bani was Guru's real jewel at that time. And one of the more famous trips was a trip to Thousand Island Park. And Thousand Island Park is very near to Ottawa. It's it's in the north of, it's in the northwest of New York State, south of Ottawa. Thousand Island Park. Thousand Island Park is known from our perspective because that's where Vivekananda had his home for some time, and with Nivedita and all about Vivekananda. And one of the disciples, his name was Purushottama. Purushottama's complete life was about Ramakrishna. He was a very astute, he had a radio show also, and he was all about Ramakrishna. And I'm not quite sure how he met Guru, but the really poignant part is we all get in the bus, and it's about a 10-hour drive to get there, and Guru meditates as you're leaving, you sing the Supreme in the bus, and then meditate for a while, and then people are doing different things, then they fall asleep, then all of a sudden you wake up and Guru's standing in front of the bus meditating on everybody, or walking down the aisle and meditating on each person in the aisle. You know, it's like, oh, wake up, Guru's right there. And it's like, okay, we're ready. And then there was a learning contest to learn some poetry. So everybody was trying to learn the poetry and then stand in front of Guru in the front of the bus and recite the poetry. And Guru, nope, you missed a word. Nope, you missed a word. So there was a lot of, during this 10 hours. So arriving at Thousand Island Park, at one point during this trip, there's a place called Vivekananda Rock. And that is where the Vivekananda disciples feel that Vivekananda reached his realization in Vivekananda Rock. But nobody was quite sure. So Purushottama said to Guru, it would take a yogic's vision to know exactly where Vivekananda sat when he reached his Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And so obviously Guru took up the challenge. So we all walk up to where Vivekananda Rock is, and Guru says, okay, so now go find the place where Vivekananda meditated. So we all scatter out to go, okay, you know, it's really going to be over there, and, you know, some people are under a tree and a bush and so on. And Guru goes to a particular place and sits down. It's nondescript, it's not a rock, it's just a place, and there's a picture of that. You can see it. And that's where Guru said that Vivekananda reached Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It's quite amazing. I got my name, actually I don't know the exact date, but it was within, I think, the first year and a half. That's interesting. There's a picture here that you'll get later. That's actually a very interesting story because Sarma was the official photographer at that time. And I can remember distinctly, it may or may not be the time that I got my name, but it was another moment in time which is very significant because often people ask, how does Guru initiate? Or do I need to be initiated? Or they feel they want to be initiated. And Guru has said in his books and has said clearly that Guru initiates when Guru wants to and how Guru wants to. It could be in person, but not necessarily. But when you become Guru's disciple, Guru, and you're both accepting each other, Guru's initiating, but in Guru's way, in an inner way more than likely. But when Guru was asked that question at one point, he said, but it happens that Sarma, there's a picture by Sarma, which Guru had seen at that point, when Guru was blessing me at the time of initiation. Guru's look is extremely powerful, and I think at some point Guru calls it a power look or something. Savyasachi means equally balanced. It's also the name of Arjuna, Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna could string the bow with both hands. So it's like, oh, ambidextrous bowman. So you can string the bow with your left hand or your right hand. And a little bit later on, I asked, because at that time Guru didn't write things down like he did in later days. And I asked Guru, and Guru said, Savyasachi is equally balanced. It's the ability to see the goal from different angles, to weigh the different possibilities and see the goal from different angles. God is love. Love everyone, find something valuable in every person, and love everyone and love everything around you, all of God's creation. Find something to appreciate in everyone. Guru was so good at appreciating through his songs and all the different events that Guru created. Guru would find the good thing. Guru would read the books and find the thing and then make the song, the music, and the presentation. So there's something good in everybody. And finding that little bit of God and the testimony of he who is all the masters is in this form, Sri Chinmoy. If you have a slight bit of belief and you capture that and hold that, then you say, this is a massive yogic master that we all have the opportunity to be a part of. So a new seeker can also be a part of that, and hopefully we are the reflections of Guru and the reflections of Guru's love for each one of us as best we can to the best of our capacity. He's the master. He's the yogic master that fascinated me in the beginning and continues to fascinate me, that whatever the highest that we can think of in terms of a spiritual master, a yogi, an adept, a Vedic seer, it's all Guru. So I tried at every time, every opportunity to be there and be feeling and being as humble and as receiving as possible from Guru. So it's basically, but I took the opportunity because familiarity, and sometimes I overstepped the bounds, but I learned little by little where you can and shouldn't. I mean, you treat Guru too familiarly is not good. So Guru is like a father because you can be very close and help Guru in very personal ways. So that's sort of a long story for you. But Guru's the master. I like to practice affirmations. So Guru's, as I saw, because as a guard and as someone who wants to serve Guru and do the best service and the best duty possible, I usually went a little outside of just Guru's writings to find things that would inspire me. If it was Ramakrishna, I mean, very often in the writings of other spiritual masters that Guru suggested we could read, but sometimes other things. But it's always with the focus of how is this going to assist me in developing or being a little bit stronger in some way that I can't quite figure out now, so that I can do better for what's needed. So in pressure-filled times, by using affirmations, by repeating these things to myself, that being calm, being poised, seeing and maybe my name, seeing the situation from different angles helps. I think I worked hard at developing the aspects that were necessary to do an effective job, do the task at hand. I like affirmations a lot. I was once sitting, actually I was in the kitchen, in Guru's house at the kitchen table, and Guru was doing something on the table. I guess Guru was writing or practicing anyway, he's definitely practicing some song. And I was massaging Guru's shoulders. And I was humming, because, you know, the Guru repeating the song over and over, and I was sort of quietly humming in my own way. And at some point, Guru said, "What? Who's humming?" Oh, sorry. Because, see, I was an original member of Singers of Eternity's Patience Pride. That's still Chinananda's group, but that's kind of where I am as a singer. Guru has clocks anywhere you look. When a Christmas trip, in Guru's house, in the car, there's always a clock. It's always visible. Punctuality, regularity, very, very important. Guru would sometimes get in the car and Guru wouldn't say anything. He'd just point 15 minutes later. And you knew that was okay. Then we pause for a moment, and then I would drive 7.5 minutes and 7.5 minutes back, and we had a 15-minute drive. And I could go anywhere that I wanted, but I had to be back at 15 minutes. It could be a little bit off, but generally it was all, And Guru would come out on the dot, almost always. I opened a health food store and I was interested in health food and so forth. And probably too many times Guru might have scolded me because I sort of, Guru, you really shouldn't eat that, or maybe you should have this, or maybe you should have that. That's not such a good thing to do to your master. He tells you, you don't tell him. But yes, one time Guru was very, very successfully, there were 2 times when Guru lost quite a bit of weight. And one was called the Rise and Shine diet. And it was a combination of a drink with psyllium, which is just a bulking agent at one point, and then you wait an hour and a half and you take some nutritional capsules, and another hour and a half and you have some nutritional meal. And we had it all lined up on Guru's kitchen table. He'd take a little bag and he'd empty it in the water and stir it around and drink it, because you had to drink it pretty quickly. And Guru did it absolutely successfully for a month and lost quite a bit of weight. And Guru was quite happy. I think that's one of those, we've seen pictures, thin pictures, when Guru's stomach is sucked in and, very happy. Another time was in Indonesia. We were in Solo, and the popular diet at that time was a no carb or no grain diet, I think it was. So it was reducing carbohydrates. So I was very strict on just vegetables and no carbohydrates and no cookies and no prasad. The basics of you keep the body fit. There's so many runners here, ultra runners and all kinds of runners. So I kind of adjust that to 20 minutes of exercise in a day, because that enlivens the physical, enlivens the body, our temple. And meditation, of course, once at least, if not twice or more times per day. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a long time, but it should be very devoted. And reading Guru's writings, again, I don't know a ton of Guru's writings, or at least a lot of the poems, but I know enough that I can repeat them, and they mean something. And as you say them over and over again, the meaning gets deeper and has more significance. So these are Guru's, what we see all around us is exercise, I guess meditation should come first, and exercise and singing and reading, and just becoming deeply involved with everything that we can that has an uplifting and spiritual attitude or spiritual dynamic about it. And if it doesn't, then we say that's not what we want.